rowdy people in the house. Are y'all going to fall on a stage and hit your head on an exit of a plane? I know. Well, we're going to be talking about that today. I mean, yes, it was a fall, but it's way more than that.
Well, it is more than that.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't know anyone, and if you have pleasure seeing an elderly person fall, then you're jacked up.
Yeah.
And we probably shouldn't be talking. That's just weird. But the fall was scary, but the pre-fall was scary. Did you pay attention to some of the video that has been circulating? I mean, he literally doesn't know where the hell he's going. I mean, go here. I mean, of course, you have these funny people make funny videos about it, and I don't know if you saw I don't know if I sent you guys the one about the secret earbud. Where like, go here, no, go there, yeah. And he doesn't know where he's going.
I know.
There's just so much deeper. Then he reads, and he doesn't read very well, and then he's so uncomfortable that he always has to skip off stage now. He has to shuffle or skip and move his little arms in a very uncomfortable manner. I always watch people when they're being watched by a crowd. People don't know how to walk comfortably when they're being watched. They walk weird. I know it's not normal. It takes time to get used to being watched when everybody's looking at you. But he's been doing this for how many decades now? And it's like there's this regression where he's uncomfortable in his skin, and he does this little shuffle, or people get all torquey and they get weird, and he moves his hands in a weird way, but it distracts him, and he doesn't have a lot of tension to work with. And then he just took this huge fall. That was a scary fall. I mean, and depending on the angle you looked at, someone had a lower. I mean, my pop's 86, and I wouldn't want anybody in their 80s or even 70s falling. I wouldn't want anybody falling like that anyway. I really wouldn't, even if I don't like them. It's irrelevant. But that was a scary fall. As I was talking to a buddy, we were a head bump away from Kamala Harris being president.
Oh, don't say that. It is absolutely
tell me that's
true.
Not real.
Yes.
Tell me that's not a legitimate concern. We were a head bump, God forbid, and I don't wish that on President Biden. We were a head bump away from President Harris.
Well,
thank you, Nico.
George.
Thank you for that.
George.
Well, thank you for the image because for all of those who are saying, I wish Biden wasn't in office, right? You just sobered all that up.
Careful what you ask for.
Careful what you ask for just when you think it couldn't get any worse. Yeah. If there was ever a legitimate reason to invoke the 25th Amendment, I think this would be a good time to start some conversations. But, of course, that'll never happen.
Never happen.
Yeah, when you hear about all the noise around Trump at the time, we should invoke the 25th Amendment because Trump says things we don't like. Think about that standard. This is a legitimate reason to look at the health and well-being of this president. He is clearly not all there. We've mentioned that several times in the show, and I suspect we're going to be doing a lot more over the next 2 years. But this isn't funny. That's the point. It sounds funny. Oh, he hit his head again coming out of the door frame of, Air Force. What is it, Air Force One?
Marine One, I think it was.
Marine One, yeah, the helicopter. And we just kind of joke it off now. I mean, why are we joking about, not us, I'm saying, but why is the nation just kind of joking about it?
But they're not, because you can't trust polling completely, but the vast majority of Americans believe he's not mentally fit, competent. And the vast majority of Democrats don't believe that. But someone or some group of people are putting him up. Because I don't believe that he's made that conscious decision. I don't know. I mean, they seem to be able to control him and everywhere else. Why can't they control him from not running? It seems, how many times has the press secretary corrected the president from speaking? Well, with our official position, well, he's the damn president. What are you talking about?
And then she says, he's been very clear. She always says
well,
that.
No one's clear over there. They don't even know what they're talking about. You have the left hand, the right hand don't know what they're doing. I've often asked myself, who's really... why would you do this to someone?
Because they want somebody they can control, obviously.
That's a wonderful theory,
Yeah.
and it seems the evidence seems to lend to that theory. I can't make that conclusion because I don't know for sure.
We've established pretty much precedent for that, haven't we, Nico? I mean, this is going to be Fetterman 2.0 in 24. Mm-hmm. And just when you think you can't, it really is Weekend at Bernie's sort of living out in politics. I mean, we're sort of propping up almost a half-dead human being here and kind of mouthing whatever it is that we want him to say. Fetterman's a United States Senator, for goodness sakes, and he spent most of the time in the Senate. Right now is very short-lived time so far in the Senate. He was admitted for depression and wasn't even communicative here in the first part of his senatorial stint.
And his speeches and his talking, he has an instrument to help him. What is that? He has an instrument to help him...
To actually be audible and to communicate and enunciate
to
words.
Listen to what you're saying or something like it was weird. It's just very odd.
Yeah, I think he's doing. Remember he was in a debate and they had closed captioning.
There it is
for him in the debate. why are we doing this? Why are we okay with this? And the reality is we're not okay with it, but I think the nation, this is depictive of where we are with many things in this nation. We're sitting back and looking at the direction that the country's in. Americans are saying, and overwhelmingly so, to the tune of 3/4 of Americans saying we are definitely heading in the wrong direction and need to make a change. But Nico, we're paralyzed though. We're almost in a catatonic state where we're overwhelmed and we don't know what to do. We see ourselves heading in a downward spiral, but we don't know what to do. And I would submit that this is very deliberate. I keep coming back to the operative word here in this program. I don't want you to think it's accidental. I don't want you guys to think that it's ineptitude. We don't have an inept government. Now, if they're out to be fiscally responsible, if they're back to get the nation back on a constitutional track and get us to re-identify with our ideals and build a nation back on the ideals that forged the Declaration of Independence and the American constitutional order, yeah, they're totally inept. But that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to do the exact opposite. This is not ineptitude. This is deliberate. Very, very deliberate. This is strategic. Everything they're doing, I think, has been rather successful because it's their objectives. We don't like it because we think it's destructive. But from their perspective, I think Joe Biden has been unbelievably successful.
But you actually think this is his plan? I mean, like he sought out to say,
No.
hey, you know what? The Joe Biden of 2008, there was a very different Joe Biden in his previous decades in public service, if you can call it that, or and then this is I'm going to get him really now. I'm going to trick them all. Like he's the Lex Luthor of this movement. No, he's just a bag of skin. You know?
Willing or unwilling,
No
he's
mind.
complicit.
Last
I mean, I don't mean it
night,
to be disrespectful. I'm just being. I mean, I'm looking at the
I
evidence
get
in
it.
front of me, and it's concerning.
last night the president addressed the nation after the Senate passed the debt limit bill. Are we going to talk about that today? All of the, I don't know which side got points on what they wanted, but it really seems like not much happened for either party.
Well, I mean, I've really been trying to catch up. You know, I was on a family trip during the week, and so I've been trying to play catch up. And so I've listened to people on both sides of this. You know, you have 149 Republicans that voted for it and 71 that voted against it. You have 165 Dems that voted for it and 46 against it. Okay, so more Dems voted for it. That's kind of concerning, right? What are we missing? I mean, just on the numbers, like why are more Dems voting for this than not? We have less spending. You have people like Newt Gingrich saying that, look, it's a step in the right direction. You're not going to change. You're not going to turn the course of a huge ship in one turn. I get that too. I mean, he was a successful speaker. I mean, his opinion matters to me. I mean, it does. I think he's been shown to be a good conservative. Then you have certain Democrats on the left that are pissed off. You have the New York Post and Wall Street Journal saying that this was a win for Republicans. Well, yeah, it seems like the Republicans won the narrative, the narrative battle, because it's looked at as a win, quote unquote. But when you look into mandatory versus discretionary spending, I mean, I don't think, George, and you can correct me again, because I'm not claiming to be an expert on this. I don't believe that mandatory spending changed. Discretionary changed. You know, they still got their, I mean, we can go back and forth on IRS versus food stamps versus Social Security and what the arguments and the back and forth. And so, I mean, I think from the marketing or from the narrative, I think the Republicans want, I don't think this is going to change anything. But then yet you make the argument, but it's a start. So the ship has turned. Because then if you didn't do it, then what would have happened? You'd have Joe Biden coming in saying, I'm not negotiating with terrorists and all the language that they use, hyperbolic language. And then he blinked. So he did negotiate. So you got people pissed off on both sides. I'm just giving you a dump of thoughts. I mean, I'm not saying I'm taking a position. I'm just giving you a dump of thoughts. It's just an interesting, I'm going to further dive into it. But I'm sure George has thoughts.
I do, and I'll keep them simple if I can, because we remember two things at the heart of the narrative, right, Nico? We're gonna raise the debt limit. Is this where McCarthy was getting a lot of support? And I think vast majority of Americans, according to CNN and Fox News polling, about 2/3 of Americans are saying that they did not want the debt limit to be raised unless there were commensurate cuts in spending. And McCarthy said, yeah, that's absolutely right. We're going to get behind that. He had great polling on this. McCarthy's been walking on water, I think, in this regard.
He's done a good job.
And it's had a lot of conservative support. That's all fine and good. The reality is that it was not delivered. the amount of spending in the short term and in the long term is absolutely infinitesimal. And I just went back to the numbers. I try to get away from the politics. We're looking at about a $1.5 to $1.6 trillion deficit this coming year. This is about what we're clocking, between 1 and 1.5 trillion in annual deficits. Now, I think you know what that means, right? Nico here is the real finance major.
Oh, yeah.
He's specialized in finance. I have an MBA, but I didn't specialize in finance. I like financial statements analysis, in corporations. But if I'm looking at the United States government as a massive corporation, I have to say the numbers don't add up, Nico. We've got about 1.5 trillion in this coming fiscal year. That's about 21 trillion over the next decade. That trajectory has not changed. And so I'm looking at, okay, no problem. I mean, yeah, we spend money, but how much are we actually saving? If you actually look at the amount of dollars that are going to be saved next year, $12 billion.
I thought you were going to say $12 because that's what it felt like.
Well, I mean, I might as well say.
Billions don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, that's that. So we have a $1.571 trillion deficit specifically over the next year. And we're going to save $0.012 trillion. Okay. People are thinking, I can't operate in trillions. Simplify it for me. We ought to come back and talk about it in terms of the U.S. family budget, how that works.
That absolutely
Maybe that'll
is
help.
very important when you talk about dollars in people's pockets.
So the average budget's around $71,000. Let's start there and then convert that to actual dollars. If you were in charge of your budget, what this means
But then
in
you have
terms
to
of
think,
dollars.
well, what's the alternative, though?
Oh, no, we'll talk about the alternative. Yeah.
Okay, this is Sidebar, and we will be right back. This is Sidebar. Hi, Salo.
Hey, how you doing? We want to thank everybody that's logging on. Hernando's Arce, James Warren, thank you for your comments. Thank you for everybody that's following us on Twitter. We passed the 100 mark on Sidebar on Rumble. That was amazing.
Nice.
And I want to thank everybody that's following us on Twitter. It's getting better. Amazing things are happening on Twitter. I don't know if you guys are following what happened on Twitter with What is a Woman documentary. Which
I heard about that just yesterday.
That was
crazy.
amazing. That was
So did
amazing.
you hear about that, Karen?
No, I didn't.
So What is a Woman? Matt Walsh did that
Yes,
documentary,
I-
which
yeah.
I haven't even seen it, but
I
I've
haven't
seen the
either.
clips.
It's well done.
I've heard it's well done,
Yeah.
but the clips I've seen are very good. And he just really lets people fall on their face.
And now, understand, we talked about a few weeks ago, I told you that Twitter is going to start going to streaming and putting videos on.
Well-
so Matt Walsh released the video
But
on
then,
Twitter.
but then Elon Musk retweeted it. Says
The
everyone
problem is
needs to
that-
watch it, and then 54 million views, like in
60
24
million,
hours.
60 million
Yeah.
now so far.
That's
he
crazy.
pinned it to the top of his Twitter.
Yeah.
That's what Elon Musk did. But apparently somebody was already still canceling Matt Walsh, and he's like, okay, let me fix this. And he put, every parent should watch
Yeah.
this, which is pretty amazing.
Karen, 60 million, 54. I thought it was 54. 54 to 60 million views in 24 hours.
That's nice. I want to watch it. No, I'll
I need to
definitely
watch it
watch
too.
it.
I'll-
The clips I've seen
Oh
are
my
good.
goodness. Yeah.
The clips I've seen.
It's
are good.
really well done. I'm a little surprised because it's been out there for a while, hasn't
Yeah.
it?
But you had to pay for it.
This is another
but
surge,
it was
though.
behind the
It got a lot of traction at first because he was on Dr. Phil or whatever, and he's debating people, and just
Yeah, but this is 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. I mean, because it's I didn't expect this kind of response, but I'm very glad because it's well done.
So thank you for people following us on Twitter, on TikTok. We have a number. Somebody wants to text us. I got a number for us also. 210-906-8110. 8110. I also want to thank somebody that has been texting me and so excited about Sidebar. Joey Catalina. I don't know if you know Joey Catalina. Joey Catalina has been texting us, hey, what's up with Sidebar? This stuff needs to get out there, and he wants to participate, and also he wants to become a sponsor. So if you're out there and you're like, man, we need more of these conversations, please go to sidebartv.com, and there's a place where you can sponsor and give and be a part of what we're doing through Sidebar. So thank you, Joey. Thank you for other people that have donated. And if you want to sponsor and be part of what we're doing and make this larger, please go to sidebartv.com and get involved.
We know Joey Catalina. He's been a friend, our friend, and a
now
friend of
his
the
name
show.
is Catalina.
Catalina.
According to Salo.
Salo. Anyway, Joey, hope you're well, brother.
Does he live on Blanco?
You just
Pedro Culebra. So what were you talking about? We were
we're
talking
Well, I
talking
wanted to
about
distill this
the
down in terms of
takeaways.
I was trying to find a couple of charts. Some of them weren't helpful. The one that I found was the U.S. budget versus the family budget translated into dollars. So the median family income in the United States is around $71,000. And so if a family spent money like the federal government is spending money, then it would be spending $91,000. So making $71,000 a year, but spending $91,000. And so you basically, play this out over the next 10 years, and then it becomes incalculable. I mean, at this point, you're at about $300,000 in debt in 10 years. And you're already, as a family, you're already about $450,000 in debt in terms of government dollars.
Yeah.
So you're starting in the basement, and you're spending $20,000 more every single year than you make.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be in a hole. At some point, you're not going to be able to get out of that hole.
But nobody can run a business this way. And nobody can run, to George's point, a household this way. The analogy we were talking about was it's like running your household on credit cards. You can't run your household on credit cards. I mean, your fixed income, your fixed expenses, you just can't.
But I have to say something.
Yeah.
If I am making, what did you say, 71,000, and suddenly groceries are costing me triple, then it's not that the family's overspending. They just can't live like they were living. And so to try and catch up, my own family.
That's well said. We got two problems here. We don't have a debt crisis. We also have an inflationary crisis.
Exactly.
So the point is we're chewing on this from both ends, and we're just never going to catch up. So here's the point. The bottom line is he promised he would deliver significant spending cuts, Nico. He delivered infinitesimally so. And at the end of the day, when you look at the amount of dollars, there's really no reduction whatsoever. And it's BS. I wish I could use stronger terms on the air to say, well, we're going to have 1.3 trillion in alleged cuts over the next 10 years. Over the next 10 years. And the reality is that's irrelevant. You're going to get new Congresses in here, right? They're going to waive that off, and they're going to amend many of those reductions.
But again, play it out though, Dad. What's the answer then? The
answer is, what has anybody asked? What exactly is the big deal with the default?
Okay.
Well, let me go ahead and explain that. So what would have happened? The whole damn thing's arbitrary anyway. Janet Yellen said, you know what? We're not going to default on June 1st. Let's extend that to June 5th. Well, who the hell's Janet Yellen? Numbers are numbers.
I agree.
Okay. So you know what they should have done? They should actually said, well, we're actually going to tank this until June 15th because I don't like the hysteria. I don't like being strong-armed. Nico and I were talking off air how I've been friends a long time. We've also been in situations because I built his home. We've been in business transactions. I see how he operates. And I actually learned this from him. I knew it philosophically, but he didn't know. I'll say it right now. But he takes the position that if somebody's strong-arming you, if they're trying to bring you to the table out of fear, you got to do this now. You need to spend this money now. You need to sign on the dotted line right now or the sky's going to fall. That sounds like a big red flag, and it's time to back away and reprocess. That's exactly the moment that Kevin McCarthy was in right now. Even the Wall Street Journal, for goodness sakes, was using words like catastrophe if we default in the death limit. This is absolute BS. What's so catastrophic about it? June 5th? I thought it was June 1st. I would have said, you know what, how about June 15th? Because what happens on June 15th? That's when companies across the country have to pay their taxes, right, on a quarterly basis. And the federal government gets really a cascade of new funds. So the reality that you couldn't default and you're not going to pay the elderly and you're going to default on Social Security is just nonsense.
I agree.
What would the government have to do, Nico? Stop spending money on federal bureaucracies, right? Stop spending politicians who don't deliver.
You just can't spend money you don't have. That's all it means.
All they had to do was to curtail spending. It's not
agree.
a catastrophe. It's BS.
And reprioritize.
exactly
I get
right.
all that. Obviously, I get it. But what percentage of Americans do you think get it?
You're coming back to the PR.
Yes,
around
I'm
this.
coming back to the PR. I'm coming back to the reality and what happens. Remember, I heard the analogy. This is not checkers. This is chess. I mean, you have to think 10 strips down the road. And so, what percentage do we think? I haven't seen the numbers. I mean, how many people understand that it's just reprioritizing your debt? You can't spend money you don't have. And that's all the default
let's
really
go back
means.
to those two polls. CNN and Fox News says about 2/3 of Americans are saying they did not want the debt limit to increase unless there were substantial decreases in spending, which tells me that Americans seem to be catching on to the scam. Americans seem to be pulling the LaHood philosophy and saying, hey, man, I'm being strong-armed into this. That tells me I'm missing something, which means I need more time. And if you don't like it, fine, walk away. I think that would have been the wise thing to do because now, here's the thing. They've suspended the debt limit for 2 years, Nico.
Yeah.
Which means we basically can spend an unlimited amount of money. That's exactly what that means. Don't be fooled. Over the next 2 years, we had a bad situation where we were spending more than we had. Now we can spend whatever it is that we want to spend over the next 2 years. I promise
So
you there's
what do you
nothing
think?
in
Why
there
do you
to
think
contain that.
McCarthy did this?
Why did McCarthy do this?
But why did
I think that
because
McCarthy...
him and Scalise and all of them are pitching this as a
I know.
win, and a lot of the mainstream media is the PR war they've won, PR wise. They're pitching him as win. And are they and I'm asking, I don't know.
No.
Are they thinking that we win the PR war because I don't want to lose any momentum at all? Then he goes, now we start tomorrow on getting the stuff that we left on. We got 70% of what we wanted. We're going to go back for the 30%.
Yeah.
But at least they wanted to chip away moving forward because remember, Biden's saying, I'm not negotiating with you guys, calling all kinds of hyperbolic statements and names. And so what I get that. I mean, everything you're saying, I don't disagree with, by the way, what George is saying. The problem is, and even me over the years didn't understand it to that level. Even me. I mean, not that I'm even me like I'm somebody. I'm just saying that someone that has a finance background, that still this is not our everyday conversations, unfortunately.
Totally
and
understand.
ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is dangerous. And when you combine ignorance with an agenda, it's catastrophic. And so we have to think big term. And so is McCarthy playing chess? I don't know. I haven't spoken with him. I'm not in the inside baseball game, but he's done well up until now. Can we agree? We've complimented him. I think he's done wonderful. He's been vocal. He defends conservative principles. He makes himself available. He doesn't mind going on antagonistic media sites to defend the principles, to educate people. And you have to do that. You have to go into enemy territory. If you want to start changing minds, you got to go over there and start getting into the audiences. So I think he's done that well. I'm just not ready to throw him under the bus yet.
Oh,
And I'm
no,
not saying you are either, Daddy. I'm just saying I'm not ready to throw him under the bus yet. It was a step in the right direction, but was it a significant step? Obviously not, because it doesn't deal with mandatory spending, and then the debt's continue to going up.
Look, in April, this is the plan that Americans got behind. The plan that came out in April that they were going to push forward, I think it was the Limit, Save, and Grow Act, became the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Those are very different things. If you look at the numbers, if you look at the objectives in the first, and you see what finally came across the gate, they're very, very different. Look, Nico, there were prominent voices out there that you and I respect that were being very smart about this, and nobody listened to them. Ted Cruz came out early and came out specifically against this, and he wasn't given the press time that he deserved, quite frankly. Rand Paul has been a fantastic fiscal champion, and he has been very vocal about this. If you guys want to understand the particulars, because this show is not going to be dedicated entirely to that, although I'd love to, it's not going to happen. I mean, but they've done a good job already. Check them out. I really think Nancy Mace has done a fantastic job on this. She's got a huge Twitter thread. I think it's a multi-part Twitter thread that breaks down why this is a really bad idea. Mike Lee has been vociferous about this, and he's explained how this, in fact,
I'm sorry, George. So their strategy or recommendation would be let go into default, knowing that that's not an event. I mean, nothing's going to happen. Although you have to be careful because our financial markets are so damn sensitive.
Yeah.
What happens there, and then I think Newt's position was I want to make sure I express his position well, was if these financial markets, not that it directly affects them because it doesn't, but just the hypersensitivity of financial markets. If they have a negative effect, then everybody freaks out. Then you're going to lose 20 to 30 maybe Republican supports, and then you have this past, debt ceiling that's just clean and there's no restrictions to it at all. So are they playing?
So here's the alternative.
Okay, tell me.
And then you guys can. I'll leave it to Karen. She's our conductor. But there's an excellent piece in the Daily Signal. It's called "Senator Rand Paul Offers Conservative Alternative to Cap Spending and Debt Ceiling Bill." I mean, it's real straightforward, and it's well done. And he says two things in there I thought are interesting. And he says 60% of Americans, what we just mentioned here a few minutes ago, say Congress should only raise the nation's debt ceiling if it cuts spending at the same time. And he says, I would guess that Americans answering that poll meant real cuts in spending. And think about how he phrased it. Not an annual increase of 1% above already bloated levels of COVID-19 spending. So basically, they went to the highest levels of spending in the history of the United States government, the COVID-19 era, and they used that as baseline. And then they added an additional 1%. And Paul says, come on, you're playing with numbers here. He says, we really need to take bold action. And so he proposed what's called the 5-penny plan of 2023. And that actually places caps on total budget outlays. And then you can see the percentages, and he breaks that down. Please check out that article. There's a bunch of links on that article that allow people, Nico, to delve down into particulars. Here's the deal. If we can do this, why can't our representatives, because this has been out. He didn't just come out this 10 seconds ago. Why was there no engagement around it?
Because it was too logical. And
because
logical
it
doesn't
actually
work.
demanded a significant cuts in spending.
Look, the bottom line is there's no way. There's many people that believe we're at the final stages of this republic.
Yeah.
You cannot keep functioning this way. There's no way. Play this out. If there's not some significant change, what do we do with this? If the debt ceiling and the deficit keeps going, what are we at, $33 trillion now? Is it like that?
Yes, with a 130% debt to GDP ratio, which means we spend 30 cents more
than our value of our country.
Those numbers have to be repeated because just like Nico said, who understands this and what is this significant until after it happens? We will be right back with more on Sidebar. Sidebar. We're here every Saturday from 9 to 10, and then you can join us afterwards on Facebook Live. Well, Salo, I'm looking at you.
Oh, okay. If you want to text us, also
Salo's not used to being looked at.
1-210-906-8110. You know
And
what I
what
like
is that number? What is that number?
It's our Google number.
That's your
It's
number,
Google.
Karen.
Okay, no. I was wondering why I had to block so many calls.
We're looking for a date for Karen.
You should have told me I blocked all those
Tinder
calls.
Karen.
5'10",
Yo,
dark.
So bad. So bad.
210-906-8110.
caller.
210-906-8110. Oh, Miami got more text now. Check it out. Check it out. Yeah, Wayne Flex. What do you think?
And we're going to be doing a live after the show also, right? Okay, I'm not going to talk to him anymore. So, yesterday, I didn't see it in person, but I read that President Biden said, quote, "No one got everything they wanted, but the American people got what they needed." And when
Well, again, let's go back to let's go back to the PR war. And
Yes, exactly.
So if Biden said the American people got what they needed, and if the Republicans won the PR war, that's something they can use. That's some type of momentum they can use in future negotiations, in my opinion. I mean, I'm just thinking about the perception versus reality. Perception is real. I mean, and for many people, their perception is reality. So you almost have Biden affirming the credit that the Republicans are taking of getting the American people what they needed. I mean, maybe I'm just a spin doctor. I don't know.
Abject lie.
I got it, Daddy. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, I'm adding to it because it's just so in your face bull. I mean, think about what's happening here. When a person or a business takes out a loan, your borrowing is limited by your income, typically. I live in the real world. This is how it operates here. Nico does too. We all do. Try taking out a loan. They're going to ask for things like debt to income ratio, right? And there's actually a cap. And so if you come to the table, like we use the number $71,000 earnings, but you're spending $91,000, please tell me what bank is going to give you a loan. I mean, they'll
give you $65.
yeah, they'll laugh you out of their office.
Right.
So that's never going to happen. But think about what's happening here, right? Like we just said, a person or a business tries to take out a loan, and their borrowing is going to obviously be limited by their earnings, their income. The government, however, doesn't have such constraints. Their limits, their borrowing basically is simply limited by however much money they can take from you in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we have here? We have a debt crisis where the government has borrowed so much that they're basically has siphoned off opportunities from the private sector. There's public and private. So the public sector now, Nico, is suffocating the amount of dollars that are out there. They're basically taking virtually all of them. So what does that mean? Well, it means that there's less money available for the average American to take out a mortgage. There's less money available for the average American if you're a business owner, and you are, I am. So there's only so much money out there that's available for investing in opportunities. And this is what fuels the future. So what we're doing, this is what we mean when we say we are stealing our future from our kids. This is actual mathematics. This isn't philosophy. It's mathematical. And so when Biden says that this is what the American people need, somebody please throw me a bone here. How the hell is this what Americans need? So please, guys, think about it in those terms. This is what we say, hit the phones, call your representatives. It really does make a difference. And here's what's frustrating to me. Our opinions are showing up in our polling, but I'm wondering how much of this is translating into the average American acting out. I think we're in a catatonic state, Nico. We're just kind of sitting here.
I agree. I agree
looking
with
at
that.
this train on a track and not taking actions, meaningful
But that'll
actions in
discourage
terms
people
of.
not to do anything. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I'm critical thinking through this. I'm not taking a position. But see, how do you get catatonic? You feel overwhelmed.
True.
There's nothing moving. We're not making any progress. I've helped people lose weight over the years and encourage people to get their health better and get their blood numbers back in line. And they're like, I'm too far. I'm beyond help. Well, hold on. And then you make a little bit of progress, and they have hope, and they hold on longer, and then they have hope, and they hold on longer. Then you keep look. We didn't get here overnight. We're not. I mean, I really have to. I always caution people against this whole. We're all asleep at the wheel. Everybody, just in general. I'm not saying specifically. And then we get here, and it looks like we're going to hell in a handbasket, and everybody's nuts, and the world's going to crazy. And then we're in this huge debt that's insane. There's no business or professional family that can run their operation this way. and then all of a sudden, click, we're going to go back to, we're going to fix it. No one's going to fix it overnight. I don't care if you're Trump, if you're a combination of any of them, DeSantis, Obama, nobody's going to fix this overnight. We didn't get here overnight. And so, again, I think that goes back to, I think, Newt's point that you got to take something and do, work that into momentum to get more and be strategic, shrewd as a snake, as Scripture says in Matthew 10, but innocent as a dove. And again, because the shrewdness on the other side got us here, where, we have these big bills that pass and no one's reading them. And then all of a sudden you have all this spending.
True.
How do we get here overnight? So I just think we should pause. I think over a net, if we're not worse off, think about the bill if there was no cuts, if it was a clean debt ceiling, if there was nothing, and that if Biden got what he really wanted, where there's no negotiating with these terrorists or whatever the hell he said, then we'd be, even further catatonic, and we'd get even further down the road. I'm encouraged, and I don't want pats on the back. I want real encouragement and real hope. I think it's something. I'm not saying we're satisfied with it. I don't think we rest on our laurels. I like when McCarthy says, I'm going back for the rest that I wanted. I like that charge at least. And I just think of a war. So there's a battle, and then there's the big war.
True enough. I guess I
think
would
it's
ask.
an important battle. I don't know.
But it's an honest question. I want to know what major Democrat program was defunded in any way? What major Democrat initiative was not, well, I should ask the question differently. What major Democrat initiative was stopped?
They're going to start.
Slow
making
down.
people pay their student loans back again. Is that something? Does that count?
Right. Where do you think that's going to end up? You think that's actually going to happen?
No.
Okay. That's not going to happen.
I was trying.
There's no teeth in the bill to make that happen. So I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. How did we stop Democrat initiatives?
I love that Nico says that there is hope if we all know what's going on. But I keep on thinking for the average person who is getting half of the groceries that they used to get and paying double the amount, standing in line, sees a pregnant man on the cover of Vogue magazine and is
There is no
now
pregnant
reading,
man. He's not seen a
course.
pregnant man. They're seeing a pregnant woman presenting as a man.
And now seeing headlines that Chick-fil-A is now the latest woke company. It douses the hope, for me anyway, when I see that, because I'm thinking, well, okay, yeah, there was a funding bill that I don't know anything about, but as I'm standing in line and I can't afford anything and I see all of this around me, well, that's when a lot of people do go back into the fetal position and say, what the heck?
Well, the vast majority of people don't support this craziness. I mean, women,
It's true.
Men cannot get pregnant. We should not celebrate an illogical idea. We just shouldn't. I mean, that's not normal. The vast majority of Americans, both Republican and Democrat, do not support this. Do not support women getting their ass kicked in sports by men pretending to be women, and they're losing their opportunity for scholarships. They're losing the opportunity for the affirmation and the reverence that they deserve, even if they're never going to go to college. But they had a moment in high school. Do you know what? To be able to talk in 3 decades to their grandkids about how, hey, I was a track star, and not in a bragging sense, but just to give them encouragement. You can do it too, honey, or buddy, or whatever it is. And all this is being stolen from them, and we're okay, and everyone's, and we're not okay with it, but everyone's silent about it. So remember, I've told you in the past that the intentional and the weak person give you the same result. The intentional person is trying to screw you over. The weak person is not trying to screw you over, but they're so weak that they let the intentional person screw you over. End result, you get screwed over. This is what's happening. People have got to come together, and we have got to get out of this tribalistic mindset where if you're against my tribe, here's what my tribe stands for, and here's what my tribe stands for. And no matter what, we can't depart from our tribe. How about these are the ideas forget my tribe. Here's the ideas that I stand for. Here are the ideas that you stand for. Can we agree on 2 ideas at least? Yeah, okay. We'll disagree on the other 5. Let's agree on these 2, and let's fix that. That's, I think, how you make progress. You want to talk about chipping away at insanity? That's how you do it, in my humble opinion. And why I think George and I, when we got into that discussion a while back about Franco Rodriguez, who is a person of the LGBT community, but was just, passionately arguing on these school boards against posting any flag other than the American flag. And he was just saying, I leave this stuff at home. I want kids to go to school and learn writing, reading, and arithmetic. And the American flag should be the only flag and your state flag in a school. And he goes, I don't need, that flag doesn't represent me. I mean, so, and where I say, look, I'm gonna come alongside Frank. I'm gonna come alongside Bill Maher, even though I disagree with him on a vast majority of his positions. But on some, I really agree with him on, and I like him overall. I think he's funny. But I mean, we've got to get away from this tribalistic mindset, Karen. And because it does seem overwhelming at times, right? I know you've expressed that to us, and it can be. But imagine the other side. Imagine this progressive communist movement. And they thought, man, this seems overwhelming. I don't give a crap. We got 30, I'm on a 30-year plan. I'm not on the 2-minute plan to get this instant gratification and fix everything overnight or change everything overnight. I'm on the 30-year, 100-year plan. There's a 100-year plan. You knew that, right? And we've talked about that, George, in the past, right? Was it the Communist Manifesto or whatever it is? We've talked about it before. These are long. They're playing long ball.
They're putting check marks next to everything.
They're playing long ball. It's how do you know the old? How do you eat an elephant? One bite
at a time. Yeah.
Salo anymore. But one bite at a time. How do you break out of a prison? One scrape, a little shovel at a time.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what they're doing, and we've got to do the same thing. Now, there are some things that are immediate, like parents' rights and mutilating children. That we just need to, because that came out of nowhere overnight. We've got to get that out of here overnight. That's different. That has not been in the works for decades. 15 years, this country has changed. And you can just look at the speech from both political parties, from Obama to Biden to Hillary Clinton to Feinstein, Reid, Schumer, all of them. Just listen to their speeches 15 years ago and listen to them today. So that came out of nowhere. We need to get rid of that mindset, this trans stuff overnight.
Okay. And did you see the video of the Disney princess that had a mustache? That's the latest video that I've seen, and it's disturbing. We will have one more section on the air, and then we will continue with Facebook Live, but we got to take a break. We'll be right back. You can always go back and listen to other podcasts that we've done on YouTube,
on iHeartRadio app, on Facebook. Later, we'll put it on Rumble. We want to thank Adam. Adam texted us on 210-906-8110. He says, I love what you guys are doing. Awesome material covered in your shows. Adam, thank you for texting us. So you can text us at 210-906-8110. And also, remember, you can go to sidebartv.com if you want us to grow this conversation and also expand this conversation and get it to other people. Well, you can become a sponsor at sidebartv.com.
Guys, there's one thing that I wanted to ask you both about before we go into any other subject. And just like you said, the Limit, Save, and Grow Act then changed into the Fiscal Responsibility Act, but it kind of still didn't make sense to what it was. But there's two letters, I guess, grouped together that I don't understand yet. We've been hearing about ESG for the longest time, and now there's a new acronym, DEI. Do you have any idea? Can you explain to us what that means?
You know, we've been talking about DEI for a while, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It sounds really wonderful. Boy, I tell you what, who doesn't want diversity? And boy, equity, because people think it means equality. We've talked about many times in here. We'll continue talking about how it's actually the opposite of equality. And then an inclusion, which which is actually the opposite of inclusion. So basically, any narrative that goes against the status quo is disincluded, is excluded. There's nothing inclusive about it. So what's going on here? What DEI is really the implementation of ESG.
Say what that is again.
Right.
Environmental, social, and governance, right? So you basically have now new standards by which it's an economic philosophy. And at the end of that sphere is a desire to change the culture accordingly. So you now make investments in a company and you run a corporation based on green initiatives, climate change philosophies, climate change initiatives. Do you incorporate green thinking into how you run your business? That should be a priority, not just something you do, but a priority. Social means that you are making hiring decisions. You're making business decisions on the basis of class, race, sexual identity considerations rather than competencies. In other words, people are being rewarded on the basis of group identity rather than their qualifications, their skills, their achievements. That's the social aspect of it. And any inclusion, I think, really follows from that, right? This is about the opposite of what you would think inclusion would be. Like Nico always says, hey man, where the hell's the diversity here? After all, we ought to be having diversity of thought. We ought to be having a war of ideas, a jousting of ideas, a competition of ideas.
Sparring, yeah.
Whereas inclusion is actually sort of really a propagandistic term. If you distill it down to what it's actually doing, it's disincluding views that go against this this class-oriented ideology. It's a mess. So let me give it to you in practical terms. We talked about it in R-rated Christianity. Imagining forming a football team on this basis, considering demographics, or hiring lawyers at a firm based on how many blacks or Asians or Hispanics or whites you have, and gauging your firm's competency on that basis rather than are these in fact good lawyers.
But that is not competency by definition then if you're hiring somebody for their looks.
True enough, but that's an excellent point. Here's the point. Competency doesn't matter. You're taking competency out of the equation. What matters is that you have a certain demographic spread in your firm. You're showing that you can't be accused of insensitivity to minorities. How's that? Incompetency becomes less and less important, and sensitivity to minorities becomes all that important. So DEI is the implementation of these environmental, social, and government priorities at ground level. That's the problem. And you have Chick-fil-A now, a company that was founded literally almost 80 years ago, a conservative Christian company that has been unbelievably successful, that is now adopting these principles into their governance structure.
So
this is a death knell.
I said this on Thursday. I said, let's say I come in and I'm a woke person, leftist, whatever you want to call me, and I'm working for Chick-fil-A, and I'm thinking, man, Chick-fil-A is making a crap ton of money. We're really maximizing shareholder holdings, and we're doing really, really well. I don't believe any of the crap that we're advocating, but we're doing really, really well. Let me start another company to advocate the crap that I think. I mean, it's self-destructive, as we talked about it on Thursday night. Why are they? And last week we talked about why are they doing this to themselves? And equity and equality is a different discussion. There's the difference between equity and equality. And so I give the people that argue this point. I say, okay, so whoever you love, whether it's your child, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your brother, your sister, your parent, whoever you absolutely adore, forget about your definition of that, but just who you think you love, and they're deathly ill and they're going to die and they need this life-saving surgery. And then someone walks in and says, I got the best lawyers in this room. What do they look like? I mean, not the best lawyers, sorry, the best doctors, the best surgeons in this room. What do they look like? They're the best. I'm just telling you, just argument's sake, they're the best. Open the door. There's not enough Hispanics. I don't see any blacks. I don't see any gay women. I don't see any this. Like, okay, well, do you want those people? They're not the best, though. They're in that room, but they're not the best. I mean, there's your diverse group over there, but they're not the most competent. And it's a life and death matter. Well, let me rethink this. Yeah, well, no crap, Sherlock. You rethink it. I mean, it's that type of analysis to me. I mean, of course. Now, if You can encourage people of other ethnicities to rise up and to accomplish things. I want Hispanics and blacks and Asians and everybody, women and men, and to accomplish more and to be more diverse in their talents. Notice the word talent, not their look, their talent. Want the most diverse pilot flying across the Atlantic, or do you want the best pilot? I mean, we can go on and on with example after example.
And this is everywhere. It's in academics. We mentioned it's in the federal government. Karen, go ahead. Please add your thoughts.
No, I was just going to say, doesn't the Biden administration perfectly, isn't that the perfect example where they just stuck people in because of their color, their behavior, in
lifestyle? Look at that dude that steals everything. That bald guy. What's his name?
I can't remember, but I know what you're talking about.
No, I'm not trying to be mean.
Suitcases
I know.
at the airport.
This guy's not qualified.
Or a guy in a dress.
I mean, look at Mayor Pete. He's not qualified.
You're talking
for that
about
job.
the luggage thief.
Yeah, the
Yes.
luggage thief. I mean, I don't like to be snarky. I'm just being honest. I mean, these are not. I want competent people.
God help us.
I want the best of the best at whatever. Dollars and cents. So it's hypocrisy.
This is the age of the absurd. I wouldn't be surprised at all, Nico, if it ends up in the NFL and the NBA. This is quite literally everywhere right now. It's in university
Nobody will
hiring
watch.
decisions. True enough, but that's okay, because then you're talking about a degradation of society, and then it's deliberate. So they don't care if nobody watches. That's the point, because National Football and National Baseball, these have been unifying forces in American culture. So anything that disunifies the culture, they're all for it. So,
I got it. The people that are trying to
So yeah,
destroy it.
you and I think that as a negative. They see that as a positive. People understand that this is pervasive now. It's quite literally everywhere. It's in the legal fields. It's in the medical fields. It is in the United States military. Here's the inclusivity pledge for Task Force 1 in the Navy. Quote, invest the time, attention, and empathy required to analyze and evaluate Navy-wide issues related to racism, sexism, ableism. Ableism refers to people with disabilities. Ableism, and other structural and interpersonal biases. Advocate for and acknowledge all lived experiences, which is the subjectification of all knowledge, and intersectional identities of every sailor in the Navy. Again, lived experiences. That truth is now measured by simply your experience rather than whether it's an objective reality or not. So here, think about this for a moment. So now, according to this pledge, there should be no prejudice in the Navy against those who are hampered by physical or mental disabilities. This is a fighting force.
Look, I'm going to say this, and I'm being extremely respectful to my son, Michael, our oldest one, who's on the spectrum of autism. There's no way I would let him enter the Navy, and if he's not capable, he would not perform surgery. He would not. I mean, he's on the spectrum of autism, and we're working with him and giving him the best love and care and support that we can, and then let the Lord do. God will do what He does with it. But this is absurd. It makes no sense. I mean, someone, if they have a cognitive deficiency or a disability or a physical one, and then what they're asking you to do takes a cognitive prowess or a physical ability that you need. Firemen, I mean, a fire person cannot be an amputee. Maybe one leg. I mean, you've heard that
Yes.
Gooding Jr. movie.
I know,
that
but you
old-
wouldn't even want like Stephen Hawking to drive, flying an F-16.
Well, you have to explain who he is.
You know what I
He's
mean?
in a wheelchair. He was in a wheelchair, and
He was a renowned theoretical physicist, and he was quadriplegic.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't want
No,
him
he
doing
can't. It's
certain
not that you
things,
want him to, he
right?
can't. So we've got to get away. But what my point is there enough pushback? And we're seeing it. Look, I mean, when you're seeing Target plummeting, Budweiser plummeting, that's not just Republican conservatives doing that. It can't be.
It's Americans.
I mean, it's Americans, because Americans had that bedrock of agreement. These things we're talking about today, gender, and kicking women's butts in sports and cheating women out of womanhood. I mean, we lost our minds. This was an American being proud of the flag. Not that it's perfect. Being proud of American, proud to be an American. People used to stand for the flag and proud of our military and want a strong, tough military. I mean, these were American values. Baseball and apple pie, right? I mean, these were things that we all agreed on. We differed on the fringe stuff. And so we've got to continue to push back, and we've got to encourage people on different political spectrums of us to say, look, can we agree on certain things? Let's find our footing, because there's a footing. I mean, there's something we all agree on. And again, I jokingly say that the only thing that everybody all agrees on is that Will Smith shouldn't have slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars, but everybody agrees on that for some reason. But all joking aside, we've got to get to that, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to continue this conversation for another 30 or 40 minutes or so on Facebook Live. We appreciate you. Share this with someone you think might benefit from it, and we truly hope you have a blessed weekend.
Well, first of all, let me say hi. Shout out to Daryl. Daryl, thank you for texting us, Daryl. Thank you for watching. Also, somebody says TV series Chosen is flying the LGBT flag on their promo.
What?
Adam, this is Adam. Chosen. Also, JC, somebody that you know used to work with you.
JC Carpenter?
JC Carpenter.
Hello,
Love that
JC.
guy.
Yes.
He's got an amazing energy.
Yes.
Those guys that you see, like, it's a lot of energy. I love JC.
Absolutely.
Thank you, JC. And thank you, somebody else texted us. There are several people that are texting us. So remember, you can text us at this number, 210-906-8110. And thank you for supporting us, sidebartv.com.
George, what are we going to talk about?
No, Nico and I have these conversations
Yes.
where it's I either take a devil's advocate, for lack of better terminology, or he takes it, and I think it helps us to refine our positions. I like it for that reason because he challenged me to think, do you really believe what you believe, George? Let's test that theory. And then we'll go back and forth. And it sounds like we're disagreeing. We're actually not. Because Nico's position is, well, what the hell are we supposed to do then?
Yeah.
Are you suggesting we don't do it? I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy here.
No.
And suggest, did I just go trans? I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm not trying to be. I just want people to understand that this is they're not fumbling into this.
It's not like, aha, we got them. They didn't see this coming. They saw this coming and they're doubling down because there's an overarching strategy here. The three of us were talking about how Americans are being impoverished, because that's what happens here. The public sector is siphoning money from the private sector. They're impoverishing Americans. If we don't have the ability to invest or borrow, we're screwed, right? Okay, they know Americans are being impoverished. They know this. So the money isn't going to come from the shareholder. That's not where the future is. The money is coming from stakeholders, from the players at the round table. And it ain't the pissed off mom at Target with $7 to spend. That's the point here. That's why they're doubling down. The money is going to come from a central office, and it's going to be based on a kudos system, and it's bureaucratic, and you can see it all over the world in corrupt systems. You can see it in Europe, for goodness sakes. It's not about the positions that you take and their intellectual merit or their moral merit. It's about who you know.
I know, but then what Nico said, okay, so do we just not boycott?
That's
Does
how
it even matter?
that's how some people get
Yes,
catted, whatever the hell.
yes.
And
We
that's
should
because
talk about
then they
that.
feel overwhelmed and they don't do anything. We've got to do something. You've
Exactly
got to
right.
do something. We've got to move forward. You never, you know when you lose is when you quit. That's when you lose.
But it does make me sad. I heard, I don't know if I heard it on social media or what, but somebody's like, well, I would boycott Target, but the jeans are the only ones that fit me right.
Well, then don't bitch about it. Then don't bitch about it.
Exactly.
Don't bitch about it. I refuse to go to Disney. I refuse to go to Disney.
my God.
And let me tell you how personal this is. Our son Michael is on the spectrum of autism, is drawn to it. He says the Disney things. And I told my wife, I go, Angel, chula, that's a term of endearment in Spanish. I go, chula, I can't do it. I cannot do it. We can always, but what about this? We can always, what if? But we can do that forever. What are you
Yep.
going to do?
That's right.
People that are sick. Yeah, but what about, but I got to have a sensible life. Well, then you're going to die. I mean, you look like shit. You feel like shit. You know, your numbers are horrible. You're sick as shit. And but you eat like your life depends on it. What are you prepared to do? That's the question. Goes
Amen.
back to the Untouchables. When Sean Connery's shot and he's looking to Kevin Costner and he's like, don't let him get, he's coughing. And I mean, I'm not some movie buff.
Great
That's the
movie.
last movie I've seen. I mean,
Right.
what he goes, what are you prepared to do? What are you prepared? That's it. And I'm not saying revolt. I'm not saying be violent. I'm saying, what are we prepared to do within our system to vote, to make our voices heard, to go to school boards, to get out there and be vocal, whether it's on a podcast or whether it's talking to your friends or posting on your social media. And yes, taking the criticism, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease. What are we prepared to do? And so, I don't want to use the word I want to use, but screw the jeans. Who gives a shit about the jeans? I mean, because then it's going to be a friendly tuck jean that your kid's going to be pushed on. And our children are being indoctrinated. They are literally coming after our children, not just their minds anymore, their bodies. If you're not prepared to defend your child, then pack it up. Just pack it up.
Exactly right.
Just leave this, do whatever, it's over. If you can't
Exactly
prepare,
right.
you want to let yourself get abused, if you want someone to treat you like shit, if you want someone to let them treat me like shit, but if you let them treat your kid like shit, then you're a worthless piece of shit. How about that? There's no other way to say it. Then you're worthless. It's
right.
it's about what is that line?
That's right.
What's
That's
the line
exactly
in the
right.
sand? What's the, like when all the Christians, Nico cusses. Really? You're worried about that? What's the line in the sand that I will not compromise? Like Moses, let my people free. Just take the women. Let my people free. Take the women and the cat. Let my people free. No compromise. You can't compromise on certain non-negotiables. Our children have to be the non-negotiable, and that's the start. And if we can use this issue with our children to show the insanity and the true agenda and wake people up. George said this last week. I think there's a continual waking up
Yes.
of Bill Maher and people like that.
Yes.
Bill Russell, Russell Brand. If you don't know who he
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
he was a lefty.
Yeah,
This
totally.
guy is a libertarian, I think now. Free speech. I mean, funny.
Spiritual now?
Spiritual, whatever. I mean, we'll work
what
on
an
that.
about face.
We talk about,
Yeah.
so I'm encouraged. Even the Joe Rogans of the world, who was, now he's like, hey, you don't sound so crazy when you talk about your Christian faith. I mean, I get it. He used to be ridiculed. I mean, now when you see the change, and these people have huge, Tim Pool is huge
He's
on
changed
that.
a lot.
A lot. Even Dave Rubin.
Tim Pool, well, I was going to ask you a question. Like Tim Pool didn't believe in boycotts back in the day. Now he says, now I'm full boycott.
I mean, I'm encouraged by these people.
I didn't either.
I mean,
Now you're
people are against
free market
tariffs.
guy.
I mean,
Yeah.
tariffs are like boycotts, right? I mean, all I'm saying is I'm encouraged by that.
I am too.
And so we've got to keep pushing. We have got to keep encouraging people. So the Bill Maher's on issues I'm going to agree with them on, I'm going to agree with them on. It's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's not tribalistic. It's not, no, it's got to be all my way. It's got to be, oh, yeah, you're doing it, but it's that but syndrome. Like a bunch of Christians and conservatives have that, yeah, but. Well, because you're sitting at home in your underwear, drinking your coffee, thinking you can save the world, talking to you and your two neighbors. Get the fuck out of here, man. We've got to get to war.
That's
We've
right.
got to get to war of the mind. We've got to battle with people and convince people. I want the Bill Maher's out there changing their minds. I want the Russell Brands, the Dave Rubins. I want the Tim Pools. I mean, this encourages me because they have huge platforms.
Yeah.
They have huge platforms. I'm blessed with whatever we have, whether it's 2 people or 2 million. And as the Lord leads, and let it grow. But I'm just that encourages me, to be honest with you.
It's so weird that it's almost like marriage. You're married, like my parents, married for 50 years. Every day is not going to be about love. It's going to be hard. There's going to be differences. But people don't today recognize that there are differences and that you can still get along and come up with the same ideas. There's just this divide, and they don't take into consideration. You don't have to love every single part of every platform, I guess. Why doesn't it make sense?
Hey, Nick, you would have been very encouraged by Patrick Davis' last interview.
Oh, I love Patrick
Who was he
Bet-David.
talking to? He goes, Andrew Schultz. He's
I
talking,
love Andrew
he's
Schultz.
talking to Andrew Schultz, and he goes, well, he
I
goes
missed
like
that.
this. We're preparing a team.
What is he?
He's saying, we're preparing a team, a media team. He says,
Andrew?
No, Patrick David.
Oh, yeah.
He says, we're preparing a badass media team, he says.
Well, Andrew Schultz is a comedian. Look, I like comedy. I like Dave Chappelle. If someone doesn't like it, too bad. I just think he's funny.
I love him.
I like Andrew. I like Bill Burr. I mean, these are crude guys. I get it. I got it. That's my flesh. But I just think they're funny. They're not going to be my pastor, and I wish I could talk to them about the Christian faith. But whatever.
That would be cool.
But Andrew Schultz, he's a big comedian.
Yeah.
And he's got a huge following.
Strategic and smart.
He's got a big following. And remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about it. He actually went to a Christian church
Yeah.
and he wept like a baby.
He says, I don't know
and
when
he
I
was
was crying.
bold. He
Yeah.
was bold to talk about it. I'm encouraged by that.
Totally.
I'm not going to sit there and go like, well, theologically you're off on this.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. I mean, if it's a perfect person standard, then we're screwed because only Jesus was perfect. I'm not saying that we compromise. I'm not saying that I endorse something that's not biblically accurate. But I mean, that's called sanctification. It's the maturing process. I'm seeing the maturation of society little by little. So that encourages me. So whatever McCarthy didn't do or whatever, I'm still encouraged. We need to move forward. We need, when you're in a battle and you're overwhelmed and you feel like you're surrounded, it's like, what do we do? Something. Let's do something. Well, that's not on our list. Do something. Here's our goal. Our goal is not to die. Okay, then we forge forward and we be like the Spartan mentality. And we push, we push. And we push with the mind and we start voting and we start encouraging people to vote and we start changing ideas. And we say, you know what? It's not too much time to sit with a friend over coffee and change their mind. But it's just one person, but it's still one person. And you have no idea how many people that one person may influence. And that's the gospel, by the way, right? You talk about the ultimate multi-level marketing, it's the gospel, making disciples and talking to people and changing their minds and having a renewed mind in Romans 12:2 and doing it one person at a time. We didn't get here overnight. We got here one person at a time.
That was the operative word for me. I was waiting to hear it, and I heard it. And I'm going to take it and run with it. Vote. No, it really is. None of this changes in a constitutional republic without winning elections. This is all. We're just sort of wasting our time here. This is about changing hearts and minds. That's why we do this show. We want to change hearts and minds, and we want to help people who are on the other side of the political spectrum from where we are to appreciate how self-destructive that actually affects them. This isn't just me as a conservative bitching about democratic ideals. That's as old as Methuselah. But now it's self-destructive even to the Democrat. Democrats need to understand this is going to chew you up. You are going to vanish. Okay? That's the point. You're going to become a ward of the state, just like everybody else. This is self-destructive. So I don't care if you don't like Trump. Right, wrong, or different, he happens to be the front runner on the GOP ticket. I happen to believe he's going to win the nomination. I don't give a shit how many lawsuits they throw at him. He's going to win the nomination. So what are the ideals that Trump stands for? Okay? Enough with the racism bullshit. Okay, look back over the 4 years that he had and look at the autonomy that the country had to make basic decisions about the kinds of things that you can't make decisions on right now. We're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, gender. This is subsumed culture. This is everywhere. I mean, it's in universities, it's in middle schools, it's in high schools, it's in the legal and medical professions. It's everywhere. Pretty soon, you're not going to have anywhere to turn. We have to win elections. We must win elections. It's not just about Target. It's not. I mean, you're saying it helps. It's true, but I want people to understand how it's everywhere, Nico. I was telling Karen, I pulled up the CIA website. Quote, the agency created new workshops and courses directed at educating CIA professionals about diversity. Now, officers learned how diversity, equity, and inclusion are essential to mission success. And many officers signed up as advocates of diversity initiatives. So think about that now. Diversity, equity, inclusion at the CIA is going to override
As
competency.
as China is training their military to be animals, as Russia in their kids in school, they're dismantling guns, and ours are choosing pronouns. I mean, think our enemies are laughing at us. They're laughing at us. China won't allow TikTok in their country. They won't allow their kids. They won't allow this transgender cult movement to influence their kids because they want to create monsters. Russia the same way. And we're over here picking our pronouns and chopping up our kids. Play this out for 50 more years. Where do you think this is going?
Exactly.
This is going to implosion. Done. America's done. That's just a fact.
But see, what I'm doing is I'm bringing that clock way up because I know you use that as an example. You don't really.
I didn't know 50
No,
years.
at that rate, there is no 50 years.
Yeah.
At that rate, there is no 50 years. This is imminent. This really, really is. Look at the amount of damage that's happened in the last 2.5, 3 years. We've got an election coming up in 24. I'm of the belief, I really am, that the United States as we know it is going to be no more. And so we have an opportunity here. We really, really do to change the direction of the country, but we have to win elections. The only way you're going to change the CIA and the FBI, this is why they're after Trump. Mm-hmm. This is why they're after Trump. They realize that he's going to come in and he's going to come in like a whirlwind. Mm-hmm. And he is going to deconstruct this administrative bureaucratic state that is using DEI to unravel the country at its core. This is why there's so much inertia around Trump. This is why they hate him so much. We have to rally around the man because of the ideals that he is championing. Because those ideals are American. That's what we need in order to be able to sort of deconstruct these things. We have to begin undoing that. And thank God he's finally begun to talk about the Department of Education.
Who?
Trump.
Oh, I didn't hear.
It's about damn time. We have to go after the Department of Education. We really do. We have got to get the classroom back because we
Nico,
just can't keep up if we keep educating people to hate the country.
Interesting post by Ben Shapiro. Check out what he posted. Repentance is a key element in bringing man closer to God and in self-betterment more generally. As the Western abandons religion, then it's no surprise to see the West returning to a pagan standard of justice. He says repentance is a key element. And I've seen Ben Shapiro, like what you were talking about. Lately, he's been posting more things like that, more than just political commentary.
Well, I mean, I think he sees what's
It's not inconsistent with Judaism. He's a Jew, right?
Yeah.
He's Jewish.
Yeah, it's consistent with Judaism.
Yeah,
But
sure it is.
I think that's consistent
It's
with
true.
what he's been advocating for. But it's true. We have to repent, meaning repent, turn the other direction. It's not just remorse is I'm sorry I got caught. Repentance is I'm so sorry that I want to change. I mean, it's true contrition, godly sorrow. That's what we really need. We need a contrite heart here in this country and understand our roots. I mean, ignorance is dangerous. And so I really think that we need to educate people. I mean, we started last night. I'll just tell you, I've been talking about it for weeks. We had 11 of my daughter's friends over last night. Some of the parents stayed. And I said, look, I'm telling you right now, I'm overtly coming for their minds. And they said, go for them, please. And I'm not going to be, I kept it PG because it was the first one. But it was me and a friend of mine, Mark, another parent. We sat there, we cooked them some food, we got on the grill, they swam for a little while, and we talked for about 20, 30 minutes, and we're going to do more and more of those. And I don't care if it grows to 500 kids if they're there sincerely, not just to hang out, but for the mind. And the kids were engaged, they were listening, and I told them, look, get your thoughts, get your questions. There's nothing off the table, there's nothing off limits. I mean, the world's coming for your minds. I promise you right now, and you're going to be influenced, and they just really appreciate it. So it's something. I want to be able, when the Lord calls me off the battlefield, and I pray it's not for another 40 years, but when he calls me off the battlefield, I want to be able to look him in the face, his beautiful face, and say, Abba, I did everything I could. I used every talent you gave me. I used every opportunity you put before me. I used every situation that you presented me with to advocate heaven on earth and to leave this place a little better than I found it. That's what I did. I did the best I could. And I pray that he'll say to me, well done, good and faithful servant. Those two, that's it. I mean, that's the conversation that drives everything about professionally, politically, personally, everything in my life. I don't give a shit what people think about me. Oh, and he goes, I mean, I've heard all kinds of crap. People lie about me. People, all I can do is get to know me and then make up your mind. But really get to know me. Don't form an opinion when I'm on a rant or when I'm using slang that you don't like or whatever. Get to know me, and then if you don't like me, fair enough. Not everybody's gonna like me. Not everybody like Jesus, so I'm in good company.
That's exactly right.
But what I set of ideas are we advocating for this country? That's what it boils down to. A set of here's that. I want women to be revered. I have 2 daughters. You have 2 daughters. George has 3. I want women to be revered as the beautifully, wonderfully made design of God that they are. They're a design of God, and I don't want biological men cheating them. That's just an idea. Do we want a dude with balls, kicking the crap out of chicks? I mean, I don't. I think that's a crappy idea. I want freedom. I love freedom. I mean, of course, tempered freedom, but I want freedom to invest. I want freedom to think. I want freedom to worship. I want freedom. I want freedom. I want a big citizen and a small. That's an idea. That's an idea. I want low government involvement. I want a big citizen. That's an idea. These are all ideas. Here's an idea. I want strong borders. I don't want, just like you don't want someone breaking into your house, I don't want someone breaking into our country. Just an idea. There's not one person that's advocating this border insanity that wants people thieving their house, a burglary of habitation. Not one of them. It's hypocrisy. That, to George's point earlier, why are they doing this? Do as I say, not as I do. Because it's an oligarch, right? It's like the benefit of the small group at the expense of everybody else. And so what ideas do we want to leave this country back with? I mean, look, we're all on limited time. If you've been watching this show for an hour and 20 minutes, you're an hour and 20 minutes closer to leaving this earth.
Exactly right.
That's just a fact. That's not a doom and gloom statement. There's one thing that we can't print, it's time. You can print money, you can be like the United States government, you can't print time. How are you going to use that time wisely to truly bless this country and leave and think about our children? Remember generational thinking we talk about? Eternal thinking, generational living. And we don't do that anymore. And that just motivates everything for me.
I mean, in a way, whether the boycott about Bud Light is because they didn't like who was the representative, or if it's something bigger, like you said, with the shareholders or the stockholders, it's funny that Bud Light is what brought a lot of people together, no matter if they were Republican or Democrat. It was almost ridiculous that Bud Light was the thing that people said, that's too much. You can't, that was almost like what America was, but that it was a beer. It was kind of like bizarre, but it kind of worked to get people together that were on different sides.
I think that's great, man. I do believe there's an awakening going on. I do.
Praying more.
Oh,
I do. I do believe that.
One thing that I wondered, go ahead. No,
I'm encouraged by it. To your point, I am encouraged by that. I want it to translate into meaningful action.
Yes.
I don't want it to be, just
About
a gigantic sort of collective emotional reaction where it's sort of a pressure release valve. I want it to translate into something. And I think that's why I like to spend time on strategy. It's important that we understand what our opponents are thinking and how and where this is going. They're not just trying to piss us off. It's not that it's not that they just hate America. They actually have a vision of the future. They do. And that vision right now is consumed by deconstructing America entirely. They are consumed with that. But they also have a vision of what the new world looks like. And that is a world where, as Nico often states, I think in quotation of Dennis Prager's comment, that you have this bloated government, and you have an invisible citizen, right? The bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. And that really is what the future looks like. It's turning people into subjects rather than citizens. And we always try to explain what their strategy is. This is deliberate. We need to push back, to fight, to want it as bad as they do. We need to fight as hard as they do. We need to outsmart them. We need to be ahead of them. But right now, the reality is that the opposite is true. And I believe it's entirely possible. We're industrious. We're motivated. I think our ideals are much more superior. They're biblical American ideals. They help human beings flourish. And I think that is the future if we fight for it, if we really want it. But I think it's important that we understand what the opponent is thinking and what the strategy is. And I don't mean to deflate people. I don't mean to discourage people. I want them to have a crystal clear, eyes wide open view of reality. And reality is bleak. I think the future is very, very good if we want a victory more than they want a victory. But if we want it less than they do, they're going to win. And it'll be that much more difficult to get back to where we were. And I'm talking decades. And world history teaches us that. When communistic regimes get inset, it takes decades. The Soviet Union had 7 decades of oppressive control of its people. Does that sound like a good idea? That's not a good reason to sit on our ass and not do anything. I just want people to understand the cost is high. We have to be careful. The opposite of love is apathy. When you actually don't give a shit enough to try. It's not hatred. It's apathy.
And that's what Jesus said, right? In Revelation 3.
Indeed.
He says, I wish you were
Indeed.
hot or cold, but because you're lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out. You're going to make me vomit, So apathy.
And he's talking to the churches.
You know what?
Talking to the church.
Surprise,
Who
surprise.
seems
maybe.
really lukewarm these days is Ron DeSantis. He's not as now that he's out and let loose.
Oh, damn.
Now that he's let loose into the world,
No, I
Man.
think that's relevant to this discussion because I think Americans are identifying something in Ron that really worries them. I think it's the message seems to be, hey Ron, please stay in Florida. You're doing such a great job. Just please, please, please stay in Florida and don't go along with this nonsense that your term's gonna, it's gonna be over soon and you're gonna become irrelevant in American politics. That's bullshit.
Yeah,
Who said that?
it's
Who
not.
said that's gonna happen? I mean, there's lots of opportunities for a leader like Ron DeSantis. The question is really now the time? I mean, why don't you chill out, man? Why don't you support Trump? Wouldn't that be interesting? Trump could use DeSantis. He really could. I mean,
Did you see that South Carolina? This story just
Yeah.
came out. The South Carolina supporting DeSantis early on in the early primary state voters explain why they support DeSantis over Trump. Look, it's a long way, man.
is that why Trump is up over DeSantis in South Carolina in the
I have
polling?
no idea. I have no idea. I'm just telling you.
No.
It's not over till it's over. Trump needs to stay focused. He needs to stay disciplined, which is very difficult for him to do. He's got a lot to work with. He doesn't need to he doesn't need to be petty. He doesn't need to be arrogant. He doesn't need to be stupid and attack
True.
Kayleigh McElhaney. I mean, that was so. I lost my
was pretty
shit.
bad.
Can you imagine the ratings on the first debate?
The
The first RNC debate?
McElhaney. Yeah, sorry.
He's a
McElhaney.
general, retired
How do you say
general.
her name? I always jack it up.
McEnany.
McEnany.
McEnany. Okay, Katie.
McEnany.
But I was so pissed this week, man. George heard me rant. You heard me too, Salo, rant about it.
I love
And
it.
I was just ranting. Because you don't need to do that. You don't call her milk toast and everybody. It's just so childish sometimes. It irritates the crap out of me because there's so much on the line. If Trump's going to be the battering ram to hopefully start the momentum, he's not going to save this country. He's not the Messiah. But if he's going to be the battering ram to start a significant process in saving this country, so be it. But if it's supposed to be DeSantis, if it's supposed to be Tim, I don't give a crap. I want this country to be saved. I don't care who helps save it. And it's going to be the people that save it. But whoever's that battering ram, so be it. But we need a battering ram. So that's why I was so irritated because it's not about Trump. And he got so mad. And because Kayleigh, I don't want to screw her name up again, I guess reported something. There was a legitimate number, 25% up, but then it got corrected at the last minute. And she knew better. She's milk toast and all this other shit. I was like, are you serious? I mean, This lady has been just steadfast.
She really has.
True,
She's been-
I know, but he's triggered right now because
I don't
he has
care.
been attacked by everybody.
I know. Okay, now that's the only thing that's a legitimate consideration.
Yeah.
he's punch drunk.
And I don't think
He's
it was
punch
her;
drunk.
it was Fox that he
I-
was.
I
But
do.
He's
said
punch
her.
We
drunk.
talked about that. How I think that's this only saving grace here is that people recognize that Trump has been, quite literally abused by the administrative bureaucratic state, and they're
But he
willing-
could have said
they're
the same
willing-
thing.
Well, let's tie this back to Fox News because I
could have
think
said the
I
same
think
thing.
he was getting at Fox News through Kaylee.
No,
Yeah.
but that was still stupid.
Brother, I'm not
I
defending
know,
him.
brother, but you're giving it's like an excuse almost for him. Just go after Fox. Say Fox sucks, and Kaylee, I'm disappointed in you.
Going to get to the voters. I was just
Oh, I'm
thinking how
sorry.
the
Go
voters.
ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I've no defense for that. In fact, I spent.
No, don't.
I was on the phone telling. I agree with you. I was like, dude,
I was so pissed.
dude, I'm on board. I'm just suggesting. I'm trying to look at it as like you say. How are the voters looking at this? I was trying to find the latest poll on it. Trump's got 43% in South Carolina. DeSantis, 18.
Wow.
So it is 25 points there right now. This is as of a week ago, and that's pretty significant, right? And he's doing really well. He's doing real well against DeSantis virtually everywhere you look. So I think voters are willing to look past these indignities for a reason. But I agree. Why make it more difficult?
So stupid.
I know,
Why
but
add
don't
to
you remember
the
during the
distractions?
debates,
But-
like he would call everybody names, and then when it was all over, he's like, "Oh, Ted Cruz, you come here, and he doesn't even think like, "Did I hurt your feelings by talking about your wife's mental health?"
Strategy.
No, he never thinks
this
that.
is and I want to get your thoughts on this as a strategy. He's magnanimous with his opponents. I mean,
everywhere.
he is absolutely. Vicious is the word. If you remember between him and Cruz, some of the shit that Trump said.
Yeah,
it was
ugly.
outright vicious.
about his wife.
Yeah,
So he
and
wants
then-
everybody else to be forgiving to him,
Yes.
but unforgiving to everybody else. That is a
No,
character
I was going to say
flaw.
the opposite.
He's-
After
he's-
the
he's-
fight, after the fight.
No, but what I'm saying
he
is,
pours
but
magnanimity on.
So because he's a salesman. He's a fucking
Yes.
bullshitter.
He is
I mean,
100%
agree.
marketing.
I mean,
all
all-
Yeah,
all-
marketing.
all-
he's marketing nonstop.
Again, but I'm saying is, but it's all about him. Look, I'm voting for
marketing.
I'm voting for the dude. Okay, I'm gonna get it. I voted for him already. I got it. But I'm gonna call balls and strikes. He's got character flaws. And I mean, there's no excuse.
and he doesn't
Zero.
make the marketing.
You can say whatever excuse you want to. There's no reason to call Kaylee call her a name. She's a cancer survivor, loyal. I mean, she just is stupid. It's just so stupid and
It
childish.
is.
About it.
Just
It
you know
is.
what? The thing that I texted out, I said, Kaylee, you're better than this. I expected this from Fox because they're trash. And you're one of the good ones. You served our country well, and you served the people well.
But
to
he
that.
has no filter.
That doesn't
Well,
sell.
I don't
It's
care.
always over here having a connection.
Nah,
Well,
that doesn't sell.
It doesn't matter. Well, then
We're talking
then-
about it. We're
The,
talking
rhin-
about it.
the rhinos can have her. They can have her.
Yeah.
That was kind of
Well, I'm still going to call him an asshole and vote for him. Then if that's your goal, but is that going to happen? Is that going to happen in the general? Because it doesn't matter what we do in the primary. We can all rah each other and yeah, he's the best and she's the best. It doesn't matter. If we don't win the general, we're all going to go back to our house and sulk and be a bunch of idiots. So it doesn't matter. We've got to win. That's the bottom line. So this is all wonderful and I love it. I think it's great because we've got to take step one before you go to step two. But if we don't win the general, this is all for nothing.
Yep.
So we can go back to bitching about it amongst our little groups.
So here's where we are though with the general. The thinking is I discount it, but I'm willing to entertain it. That there's a sort of political media all hands on deck effort to get Trump elected, to basically get Trump through the primary. And so once you get him through the primary, so when you see all these polls, CNN, liberal polls who normally are tearing Trump up, propping Trump up now, the thinking is, man, these guys have really joined the team. It's all hands on deck to get him past the primary. But then when he wins the primary as the nominee, there's nothing they will cherish more than to sort of bury him in legal
Destroy
disputes
him, right.
and destroy him legally. Here's the problem with that philosophy. You're going to see an upsurge. Trump as the victim, if you think in the aftermath of the Manhattan indictment by Alvin Bragg, his numbers went into the stratosphere. This is not a winning strategy, really. Trump became almost untouchable by DeSantis. Do you remember, Nico? It wasn't even gradual. It was so it went way up. And then DeSantis sort of, at best, tepid defense of Trump hurt him even more because it worried people that DeSantis was aligning with people who are saying the same thing about Trump, like Karl Rove, like Paul Ryan, like the Bush family. And so I think DeSantis, I'm not counting him out yet, but if these numbers continue, he has absolutely no chance.
Where was Trump and DeSantis before the indictment? I mean, they were close. Yep. And DeSantis was up in some polls. So as quick as he rose, he can fall. And that's why it's the 300 mentality. He doesn't walk on water. He doesn't walk he's an idiot at times. He's not a marketing genius. He's very good at it, but he's not a genius, or he wouldn't have lost the last election. I get it. I get there's problems. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is he's got blind spots. This is one of them.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. This is one of his blind spots. So as quick as he went up, he can come down.
Well, you asked a question.
You've
Let me
got to
answer
be
it.
careful. Well, let me finish my statement, please. All I'm saying is he's got to be disciplined. It's the 300 mentality. Give nothing but take everything. Guys, all I'm saying is I just want to win. I want to win this thing for our kids. That's it. I don't care if it's Trump, DeSantis. I don't care. Sorry, George. Go ahead. Finish your thoughts. But I mean, we got to win.
Well, let me start by saying I agree.
I know you do, Dad. I know you do.
That's just not my thing. I think it sells. So I get it. But I think he can hurt himself unnecessarily.
He insulted DeSantis a lot.
No, but here's what
I'm okay with that.
I disagree that they were close. I think they were in some polls. DeSantis was ahead. It was like
That's
2 or 3
what I
polls.
mean.
True,
That's what I'm saying.
but they weren't generally close. Trump had a double-digit lead on DeSantis. It just wasn't ridiculous like it is now.
10
now
or whatever,
it's
12. I mean, it wasn't that much.
right. But I mean, and maybe the argument you're making is, hey, man, based on where we are right now on the political clock, that's actually pretty close. If you're only looking at 10 points, and maybe that's where you're coming from. I think I'd agree. I just don't want people to think they were like 2 points because it wasn't like that. But now it's just absurd. It's ridiculous. I think that's the question. The question is, how does he win? Because that's what Nico's really coming at. Is where I'm coming from. How does he win hearts and minds? How does he broaden his base?
Yes.
Because he can't keep a narrow base and win in a general.
No.
He's got to broaden his base. We got to get the suburban soccer moms.
Yep.
Now, fortunately, those suburban soccer moms have had enough time under Joe Biden to realize, okay, maybe I should be less prickly about Trump. Maybe I should be less irritated. The polling is actually showing that's growing. So. But I want it to grow more. It's not growing enough, fast enough. That's what I'm trying to say. And I don't know that going after Kayleigh McEnany because you've got a legitimate beef with Fox, because I think that's why he's doing it.
I do too.
Kayleigh McEnany's devotion to Trump has all been erased in his mind. I think that's terribly unfortunate.
God, man.
It's all been erased in Trump's mind because of Fox.
Yeah.
And if it hasn't, then he's communicating that it has. And I think people really I think his base loves Kayleigh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we
But
do.
that doesn't mean that
Yes,
she's
we
not
do.
going to come back and be his press
This is a
secretary.
cluster of emotions that people are feeling right now. And maybe Trump wants that. Is that what you're suggesting? He wants that.
For what benefits, Salo?
To keep him engaged?
Yes. Look
Talk to me, Salo.
We're talking about it right now. He's done
Yeah,
this.
but it's pissing people off.
Who? You, because you're seeing it from a different point of view.
Forget about me.
Okay.
Because I'm voting for him anyway.
Yeah.
A Dave Rubin who was a big Trump supporter.
Yes.
A huge, and now he's saying you can't defend this guy anymore.
Yeah.
And you remember Dave's, I hate the word, his maturation. So Dave, who's a huge libertarian, a huge Trump supporter at time, sat with him, bragged about him on his shows, defended him, took shit from the left. And now he's ragging on too. Mm-hmm. That's big. That's deeper than you think. I'm telling you, it's deeper. When you have Joe Rogan saying, "I'll vote for Trump over Biden," don't give it back. Why do you have to call her milquetoast?
Well, it's okay. It's creative.
No, it's not okay.
It's creative.
It's okay until he calls your wife something.
Yes, all the
I
nominees,
guarantee you, call him pinche puto, and you'd fucking hate him.
Bro, I think it's strategic.
It's true.
Yeah, I think
it's all fun and games
I
until
know.
it hits you.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm judging this guy. What would he do if I'd knock his orange ass out if he said that about my wife or my kid? Was he gonna make an autistic joke?
Exactly.
You're gonna say retard
I get
to my
it.
kid? I'll beat the shit out of his ass, and you can arrest me later. I mean, enough's enough. I love his boldness, but every strength taken to
I agree.
an
I
extreme
totally
is a
agree.
weakness.
I totally agree.
It's a weakness for him.
Yeah, I totally
and
agree.
until we win, and I'll apologize to you, and I'll say I was wrong. I'm happy to, because I'll be saying thank you, Lord, that somebody other than a Biden or a communist is president.
So you hear that anger? That's a mild version of what I got on the phone. And I want you. No, but I mean, but I think it's legit. I think it's legitimate anger because here's the worry. Here's the fear I have. I fear that he's losing more than he's winning in the long run. And that's what worries me, because we have to win more than we lose. We just simply have to. We got to broaden our effing base. We have to. There's no path to 270 in the Electoral College. outside of a broadened base. And I don't know how this broadens the base.
That's right.
Now, interestingly, his travails are widening the base. People are empathizing with Trump's pain points under Bragg and other assholes. There's a lot of assholes.
I agree with that.
And that has been a saving grace. And I'll tell you why. I think that as the war comes to the average American's front porch, they're going to identify Trump
I
more
don't
with Trump.
disagree with that. So don't give anything away.
That's
all
what we're
I'm saying.
saying.
Just keep doing this.
That's right.
Take everything
We
and
want
give
this-
nothing.
Bring the grain in the storehouse,
Tell them
baby.
to watch 300. Tell them to watch 300.
We keep saying
You probably understand that. It's like,
Or Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
we keep saying don't take anything for granted.
No, don't let your guard down.
Get every
Ephesians
vote. You need
4:27. Don't give the enemy a foothold. Now I'm not saying be perfect, but man, don't
make no place for the devil. right?
unforced errors, Daddy. These are unforced errors, man. He remember you saw with my text. He could have used those language. Call Fox names. Do that, not Kaylee. Because let me tell you what someone like me thinks. If she has a perfect person standard, this guy it's this 100% loyal to me. I can do whatever I want. I can call you whatever name I want. But if you show even an ounce, an inch, a percentage of disloyalty to me because I'm a small G God, then you're condemned. There's no redemption. There's no
agreed.
repentance. That's the message. And if Kaylee's not safe
Are you
because she
kidding me?
said a number, she didn't call him a name. She didn't criticize him. She said 25% lead instead of 34%. And there's a good chance, and maybe I don't know how he knows this, that she didn't have the update. She's on the show. She's got editors.
Right.
She's got people. Maybe she didn't see the correction because she said her legitimate number. And then he's going to go on Twitter and call her and criticize her, but call her milquetoast. Now you're calling her, and now she's not
See,
a superstar anymore.
yeah, this is important.
That's how quick you lose your status with King Trump. Bullshit. That's a crappy standard.
If she would have stopped her statement there, it's 25 points and so forth, but she didn't. She actually went on to praise him.
After that, say that.
She went on
Say this to
she went
someone.
on to emphasize how she was almost telling DeSantis, anybody who's sort of favoring DeSantis or voting for DeSantis or supporting DeSantis, whatever word you want. She was actually telling him not to get too excited. Because she said, I mean, he has insurmountable leads.
Yes.
I mean, she went on to emphasize Trump's sizable, almost indomitable lead right now when she mentioned that. So she didn't see it as a negative. She was actually building a positive narrative around Trump.
Thank you, brother.
And I wish he would have just stepped back. Now, had she stopped there, this is what I was explaining to Nico earlier in the week. I could see where Trump would have said, wait a minute, you of all people, I mean, you're analytically minded. You never went to that podium as a press secretary unless you were prepared. And he's almost thinking 25 points. I mean, you saw the retraction, Kaylee. There's no excuse if she would have stopped, but she didn't stop there. He should have seen that was just an honest mistake. I don't think Kaylee knew. I personally don't think that she knew. I think it was an honest mistake because she went on to praise him.
Yeah.
And so for him to color her in Fox News blue, all of a sudden, not good. I just don't. Here's the deal. I don't like those press conferences. I find them sedating, and I can't stand them. When Kaylee McEnany went up, dude,
amazing.
Dude, I was on my
Amazing.
I was
Work of
on
art.
my feet clapping.
Oh, she was amazing.
She's a fucking animal, and she's
amazing.
brilliant.
Amazing.
She walks on water. Trump needs her.
Yeah.
Yep.
She was a spokesperson well into 2020.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she did a brilliant job.
Yep.
I don't understand it. I don't know in what universe does this make any fucking sense.
It doesn't,
Thalo.
Daddy.
It doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. So okay. So he pissed off a bunch of people. And you're saying no attention is bad attention on social media.
I don't agree with that.
I don't know.
He's
I
looked at
don't.
every nominee.
Got to broaden our base.
She's not a nominee.
I know.
She's not a nominee. She's an ally.
She's
She's
one of his strongest
And
allies.
he's going to give it away. He's going to give it away. He'll chip away at it. I'm telling you, don't take it for granted. I'm telling you. When Trump says things like this, which I thought was a great line, and it's actually true, they're not coming after me. They're coming after you,
Yeah.
but I'm standing in the way. So he's making an appeal that it's about us, not him.
Yeah.
It's about us.
Yeah.
Then make it about us. He made it about him. Oh, you know better. I mean, no, he's got to think like, I could, I'm not saying that. I don't care. I'm playing Trump. I don't care if you would have said, that traitorish bitch, I can't believe she said that. She knows better. but I'm not going to call her that in public. I'm going to be
Right.
shrewd as a snake
Exactly
and innocent
right.
as a dove.
Exactly
you know how many times
right.
in trial that I'm thinking to myself what I really want to say to the government or the prosecutor or the opposing side or even to a judge or something, but I got a jury right there and I temper my responses because I got a jury right there. And in the end, if that jury, it's what the jury thinks. It doesn't even matter what the judge thinks. It doesn't matter what the opposing counsel thinks. It doesn't matter whoever is in the well. It matters what those 12 people on my jury, or 6 if it's a misdemeanor, think. And until I get that verdict, I'm not saying I got to play to that. I have to be strategic. That's my thought process. I'm just letting you know my mindset.
And
That's why I got so
I think it's
mad.
really well said, and I think as it pertains to Kaylee, that's the kind of relationship you want to preserve. He should have bit his tongue and just waited a little bit. Now, this is how
Criticize her. Just don't call her milk toast.
This thing, I think this is going on across America. I really do. It's that imperative. Even my dad, hey dad, you know I'm on the air right now. Thanks a lot. Either you're not watching because you're calling me while
texted.
and I can't answer, but you're calling me while I'm on the air. My dad's probably got something to say about this. This is the kind of conversation. This is the kind of, I don't think this is isolated to us. I think everybody's having.
I agree.
But I think it's the people who love Trump, who want to vote for him, who are that pissed.
I don't love him. I want to save this country. I just know I don't love him. I don't know the man to
And
love
you
him.
want him to avoid stupid.
I just want to win.
things.
I just want to
Yeah.
say I want to save my children.
Yeah.
I really do, and that's not a hyperbolic statement. I mean, look how much this country has deteriorated in 15 years. We always talk about the 2008 Obama and what they were saying and what they were advocating, and where we're at. 15 years. Now multiply that. Because once it's an exponential effect. Once the snowball, remember, a snowball starts small, and then it gets bigger, and then it takes out more in the process. That's called an avalanche, and it keeps going and going.
No, we see that momentum in the last 2 years.
Exactly.
Look how much
Thank you.
degradation we have in the last 2 years.
And now imagine 2 years momentum multiplied by 15 and 15, just 30 more years. God willing, my kids will still be alive unless Jesus comes back,
Right.
and grandkids potentially. I mean, think about that. That's what my motivation is, Dad. That's it. It has nothing to do with me. I don't care. It's about my kids and my grandkids. That's why I'm so passionate.
I don't know if just to clarify, I don't know that I didn't mean to say you love Trump. I don't know that I love Trump personally. I don't know Trump, but I love his ideals that he fights for.
So you're
that's what I
frustrated
mean,
because you
his
think
policy.
that Trump is the closest thing to saving your children.
I think he's the battering ram, because that's the only way to describe him, that could be the catalyst to saving my kids.
Gotcha. All right.
That's my deal,
point.
Daddy.
Yeah,
And
fair
that's why
point.
I'm taking it so seriously.
Yeah.
It's not a game to me. I don't care what my sensitivities are irrelevant. My desires, it doesn't matter. I want my kids.
He's no savior. I mean, we already
No,
have
it's
one
not.
savior. That job's taken, and it's not Trump. But again, the ideals that he's defended, he defended nobly in his 4 years, and he didn't do more because he couldn't. And I hear conservatives bitching about the border, that Trump should have done more. Fucking spare me, man. There's this thing called a Congress, okay? And Paul Ryan cut his legs off. Can we just cut the shit? Trump did do more because he couldn't. And it was his own party that screwed him.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, who the hell needs Democrats or Republicans like that? This is why we got to start at home. We have to really evaluate. And I hope the president does that. I hope Trump starts looking in the mirror and thinking, holy shit, this really is a fork in the moment time in America here. I got to be careful. And sometimes I wonder whether he's capable of doing that, Salo. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I think he's capable of immense grace. He can be an unbelievably
really can. At times he
gracious and-
can.
You know what's weird?
and that's very
That's
lovable.
fascinating
I
to
find
me.
that very attractive. I mean, he's that gracious. You could see it. And that's what I mean. He beats the shit out of his enemies, his political opponents. And then it's like, he's bizarre gracious.
But I
Like,
don't mind beating the shit out of your enemies. It's how you do it. But seriously.
Kill him, but with love.
And your
No,
real
but it
enemies.
matters.
It's how you
Your
draw
real
blood.
enemies,
Yeah,
not
your
the
real
people that.
enemy. First of all, it's got to be a real enemy.
Yeah.
Kaylee's, and I'm not saying his statement. It's just, God, it was a bad look.
yeah,
That's all I'm
don't
saying.
make an enemy out of a friend.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So even though it feels like we're arguing against Trump, we're arguing for Trump.
Well, we're trying to advise him. We're trying to advise him, man, because we believe that he could be he's an important tool.
Amen.
He's an important tool if he allows himself.
Yeah, I agree.
But that takes humility. A tool needs to be used. He's got to allow himself to be used appropriately. So,
But he shouldn't be
So
a
I
tool.
do think there's a path to widening that base, and I think it's happening. But I can't believe it. This Trump cannot rely on the fact that his prosecution and his persecution is the only way for him to have his base widened. That's a terrible way to widen your base. He's got to stop picking battles like that. That's a shitty battle to pick. That was a needless distraction to go after Kaylee.
Unforced error.
I hope he learns from it. And I hope he was on the phone. That's what I hope. He was on the
what
phone
you were
afterwards.
saying,
With
So I-
her.
Mhm.
Yes,
I
me
really
too.
do.
Probably he was on the phone before, I think.
Hey, Kaylee, I'm going to call you this. I don't know.
Okay, sorry.
All right, guys, let's
Can I
wrap
call
it
you a
up.
bitch on national television?
Yeah, right. Well, guys,
All right.
hopefully they help you out. I mean, the venting sessions for us, but you see the passion, you see the critical thinking. We're sparring with ideas in our mind. These are the conversations we need to have, and have them with people that you disagree with. I mean, I do. I disagree with a lot of people politically, faith-wise, and we just have conversations passionately, but always respectfully, because ultimately, it's what scenario, what situation do we want to leave back to our kids? I say ideas have consequences. I've said that for years. And what set of ideas are we going to leave in motion? Because that's what government is, ideas in motion. Are we going to leave, what ideas in motion are we going to leave for our kids? For them to thrive. And what does thriving mean to us as a country? It meant something in the past, so we're just trying to preserve that. That's a conservative movement, to preserve something. The life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So guys, God bless you guys. Please share this with someone you think will benefit from it, and God willing, we'll see you next week.